Welcome back to another episode of Living with This Monster with your host, Lemon Scented. Today we are talking about self-care and how to do it, what that means, and why you should. It's a big part of my life that I've had to kind of learn over many years of how to do, and it's not what you think it would be, kind of. My self-care is a little backwards just because that's what works for me, and you can kind of adjust it for what works with you. But I do have an article that kind of centers it down a little bit and kind of gives you an idea of what it's supposed to be like and what you're supposed to be doing with it. And then from there, I'll kind of go into the things that me personally, I use when I need some time. So we're going to switch over to that article, and this is from Everyday Health, and it says, let's clear up one common misconception from the get-go. Self-care is not synonymous with self-indulgence or being selfish. Self-care means you're taking care of yourself so that you can be healthy, you can be well, and you can do your job. You can help and care for others, and you can do all the things you need to and want to accomplish in a day. If you think you've been hearing more and more about self-care, blah, 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 you're right. One indicator, there's a bunch of trends on it. You've probably heard it yourself. I agree with that one. Self-care is part of the answer to how we can all better cope with daily stressors. I have issues. If things are too chaotic, right? Like I plan my day out, from the time I get up, and I know exactly what I'm going to do. If anything's thrown into that pile and screws with that, it immediately brings me anxiety, it means frustration, and I usually have a bad day because of it. And so, and I mean like the smallest of things, changing times. You know, if you're supposed to go meet somebody this time and they need an hour more, obviously, like if you have the time to do it and, you know, it's not that big of a deal. For me, it's just throws everything out of whack. Even though I probably don't have anything to do, and adding an hour or, you know, moving a time frames is not that big of a deal. Unfortunately, for me, it just kind of throws everything out of whack. So I started getting into self-care about a year ago, and kind of trying to learn how to back off of everything that was stressing me out and kind of bring myself back into my own body. And by doing so, I've kind of been able to control. Sometimes it's I wake up and I'm just severely depressed. And if I have nothing to do that day or whatever, I'll okay, today's a self-care day. Sometimes it's Sunday because my weekends are free. And so I'll be like, okay, you know, I'll go up to the park or whatever. And I kind of touched on this in another video. But generally speaking, I do whatever I can to make sure that there's time for me to kind of recenter if I have to, because that's the only way I can get through things. And I feel like, for men, welcome, by the way, it's November. So it's Men's Mental Health Awareness, which I do want to touch on as well, which is, you know, what I'm doing right now. And so I have to do it to help myself. And I feel like a lot of men don't get a chance to really absorb just existing and absorb being in the moment. And by doing that, and by not being able to do that, the stress just kind of builds and it causes a lot of issues, right? So self-care is very important. It's something that I don't see a lot of men doing. And for me, the self-care could be, you know, on Sunday, I like to go up to a park that I like and just kind of be, no distractions, no phones, no nothing. Usually no one with me, but you can bring people with you as long as they understand what you're trying to do. And just exist and just be in a place that's not full of distractors, not very loud, not very, you know, whatever brings you peace, and just kind of exist and realize that you're alive, you're okay, everything else. And you tend to be able to work out a lot of issues that way by allowing yourself to just exists. Now, you don't want to be working on things like, problems in your head. You want to be focused on purely releasing all of that, forgetting about it for a time, being about yourself, realizing where you are, experience the feelings and the thoughts and the sounds, and really centering yourself. Now, this can be done in a billion different ways. This can be done in, let's see, you could do it by reading a book. Say you don't ever have time to read books, you like reading books, but you're not able to. Reading a book's a great one. Taking a bath, working out, maybe it's just existing, just being in a quiet room and not having any outside distractions. Any of these things are great for you. They're great for your mental health, and they tend to help you center and calm yourself. So if you've a big one for anxiety. So if you struggle with anxiety and you struggle with that feeling of constantly racing and being forced to do things and feeling that issue of like, oh God, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. I got this test. I got this. All these things are going to cause immense amount of freaking stress on you. And so self-care is one of the ways to kind of ease that a little bit. Now for me, I do two things. I am a very, very avid gamer. As you can see on my YouTube account. And I'm also a pretty big car guy. And so, usually on Sundays, part of my self-care is being in my car by myself, playing music I want to listen to, and driving up into the mountains and being in a place that doesn't really have people. It's very quiet. It's fresh. I like the smell of like early morning in the middle of the woods. And just kind of existing and kind of focusing. I like to refer to it as like meditating, but it's not meditating in the traditional sense, but it kind of is. It's kind of just centering yourself and whatnot. You do need to get rid of the distractions. So I would say like no phone. You don't want to have a lot of people with you. Usually one or two people is fine, but they have to understand what you're trying to do and trying to be doing the same thing in order for it to work. It can't be chaos. And I feel like when you don't do self-care, you get stuck in this loop of constant stress, and then that gets tiring, and then you're tired and constant stress, and then it keeps going, and then you've got depression, tired and constant stress, and like it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. So for anybody listening and anybody that cares, self-care is important. And do whatever it is that's going to put you at peace. If it's working on cars, if it's building Legos, doing puzzles, maybe it's a hot tea and a good book for an hour or two, or, whatever your hobbies are that kind of require time and quiet, or something that you feel like would be relaxing. This is good for physical health. It kind of lowers all your, stress and everything else, and kind of brings your heart rate down to normal and all these things. Like there's multiple things, and you can read all over the internet about self-care, but, it's something that I feel pretty strongly about that would help a ton of people if they were just able to stop and slow down for a second and breathe. And you feel silly. I still do. Being up in the woods and stuff like that, I still feel silly doing it. But it's not something that necessarily will always feel silly. I now kind of expect it and hope for it and like it when I'm doing it now. Whereas when I first started, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it just kind of feels like I'm sitting around. Once you finally drop that like protection feeling, you start to get into something else. And that something else is usually pretty good. It's self-care gets rid of anxiety and depression from a lot of different angles, or at least lessens the impact. So if you suffer from those, self-care is the number one thing you can do. It's free. It's usually pretty easy to do, and you can start doing it immediately. And the first time I did it, I had immediate effects. Sometimes it doesn't for people, depending on how awkward you feel about it. But you generally speaking, you do become, you do kind of walk away with something good after the first time. And then it's kind of like an epiphany of like, oh, I should do this more often. And so you just continue to make time for that. It doesn't have to always be on the same day. Again, I'm a schedule freak. So anything that's like not on schedule or not planned for me causes a lot of anxiety for me. And so I purposely plan these days because I'm like, I need to relax. I need to do these things. I need to chill. So that's my suggestion for you. If you're a car guy, go do stuff with your car. Go for a drive. If you like video games, play video games. Play video games by yourself. Don't do multiplayer. Try to play something single player. If multiplayer does calm you, then play multiplayer. Don't do anything that causes more stress. If it's a stressful thing that you like to do, that's fine to have, but that's not going to work for you when you're trying to do, self-care. So your aim is to lower as many stresses as possible that are in your life for at least a little bit, so you can kind of readjust and then come in with a fresher mind. And I don't believe men get a lot of chances to do that. Especially with the holidays coming up. Thanksgiving is literally right around the corner. I think 3 days? Yeah, 3 days from this video. It will be Thanksgiving, and that's all kinds of chaos, whether you're traveling or you're at home with all the family and everything else coming in, and it's hard to get that in. So either after, or if you can find time before the big holiday, please try it out, because it might help during the holiday. It might help with all those stressors that come with that, especially if you're traveling. There's all kinds of stressors involved with it, not just family and members and in-laws, but I mean, just generally in traveling, weather and everything else. It can be really stressful. So I'm putting this out now because I feel like this is going to be pretty useful for the next couple months, because a lot of people have a shit ton of stressors in the next 2 months. You've got Christmas right afterwards. Just a month down the road, that can be stressors for everybody. And you'll need to take some time out for yourself to breathe, because I feel like this time of year is always the most hair pulling for everybody. With that, self-care is important, and there are a ton of information online about it and a ton of ways to do it. But generally speaking, it is free. It is something that you can do immediately as long as you've got time. Like I said, I usually say a self-care day, but I'm pretty messed up. So I have depression constantly, anxiety, unaliving thoughts, if you will. And all those things just cause chaos with my brain. So I do need to take a day. But if the day is not worth it for you, take an hour. Take 2 hours. Take 15 minutes. Whatever it is, just so you can slow down life for a hot second and collect yourself. Because everybody needs time to slow down and collect yourself. And a lot of times men are like, no, I'm fine. I can control this. I can do this. I can deal with this without having to stop. And guess what that does? Break down ahoy. And so don't do that. Don't do that. Allow yourself time to take in any kind of stressor. Allow yourself time to really process what's going on. And take care of yourself. Breathe. And this goes along with eating right and going to the gym and everything else. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not the guy to talk about the gym. I'm a big potato. But, I know that helps people. And I know that is good for your brain. And so, I suggest going out and exercising if that's what you want to do. All these things are really helpful for your body to deal with the fact that you've got anxiety and depression. And then self-care is an added Band-Aid on top, a heat pad, if you will, a comforting blanket of stress relief if you can manage it, and if you can really tap into that breathing, focusing on breathing. I go up in the woods, and there's a bench that I like to sit on, and I go up in there's woods, and I sit down on the bench, and I there's a creek going by, and it's very quiet, and there's not really a lot going on. There's not a lot of people around, if at all, usually when I go. And I sit on top of this table, and I have I like to get a coffee. I like to get one of the fancy coffees with mocha and all the cream and sugar that makes it not coffee anymore. I like to get one of those, and I just sit on top of the table and kind of cross my legs, and first I focus on sounds, what I can hear, which is usually birds or the absence of sound. I hear air rushing in or whatever it is, but I don't hear chaos. I hear very peaceful sounds, and then I hear the creek, and then all these little details of sound start creeping in, and then I start recognizing that I'm hearing the full volume of sound and not just my mind racing. And so I sit there, and then I try to focus on my breathing. Now, I have to focus on my breathing because I usually tend to breathe very quickly when I'm stressed. And so it's, breathe in real deep, hold it for a second, and then let out. Breathe in real deep, hold it for a second, then let out. And I'm trying not to think. I'm trying to focus on what's around me, what I can hear, what I can smell, what I can see. And, like I said, the first time I felt real silly about it. I felt weird because it is a public park, and so people could just be watching me. And like I said, I'm a potato, so it's even more awkward. I'm a big dude. And so, I'll do that for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Just depends on how long I really need it for. And I don't have my phone on me. I tend not to say music, but music can be really helpful for a lot of people. So it's kind of take it, and you can adjust, and you can play with it to see what works for you. Maybe having music works for you where it doesn't for me. Play with it a little bit to see what really makes you feel like, okay, all right, I've relaxed a little bit. The hardest part is getting rid of the outside stressors. The hardest part is if you've got a problem coming up or a problem that exists in your life that you're just dealing with and trying to figure out the answer for, putting that away for an hour, putting that away for a day, putting that away for even 15 minutes can be very hard. And that's the trick, is you want to get rid of those because you need to give your body just a break from all of it. And I feel like as men, and the people I've talked to, men that I've talked to, have all kind of talked about how very, very much they think and think and think and think and think and think and think, and they're constantly thinking about their problems without really giving themselves a rest. And it can lead to anxiety, it can lead to a lot of stress. There's a reason men die earlier, and part of it is because we really do internalize all the stress, all the anxiety of life, all the problems. We internalize them. We don't talk about them. We don't share them with people. We don't do any of these things that we should, as men, be doing. We should be talking to other men about our problems, and we should be okay with it. We're not okay with it. We're being told that it's a silly thing to do, or it's embarrassing, or you're less of a man for talking about your issues. You're less of a man for being sad. You're less of a man for having anxiety. Fuck all that. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. So take some fucking time out for yourself and try to center yourself. It is not dumb. It is not a sad thing to do, and it doesn't make you less of a man because of it. I promise you this. What I do promise you, Oswald, is it might just be the answer for now until you get to a place where you're ready to go see somebody or you're ready to go get help. And if that's what you need, if that's the Band-Aid you need to get across that bridge, then by all fucking means, let's learn how to do it. And I say let's learn how to do it because I'm still learning. I'm still struggling with it. But I do notice the difference in my attitude and my overall feeling when I do it versus when I don't. So, men, 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 self-care. For fuck's sake, do it. Self-care. That's, you don't have to have a special mixture. You don't have to have a special thing. You don't have to do any of that weird guru shit. You don't have to. All you have to do is take some time out for yourself, right? You know, you don't have to, if you want to do the guru stuff, if you want to do maybe you like taking bubble bath. I like taking bubble bath. I'm not embarrassed about it. I like taking bubble baths. You want to go to a movie by yourself? You want to watch a movie by yourself? Maybe you want to just, maybe your goal is to have a beer and relax and watch a football game with no interruptions. No distractions whatsoever. That's okay. If you feel the stress is really coming off you when you're doing that, then that's okay. And don't let anybody else tell you that, you should just be able to buck up and take it. Not everybody can take the stress in this life. And this life specifically, the one we currently live in, the absolute vast fucking chaos that is the existence of life in the world right now, no one can do it. It's not as simple. We have so much information being sent to us all the time, constantly. And people are like, well, you should be able to deal with it. You can't. You can't do it because it's too fucking much. There's 48 hours of information being beamed in our head 24 hours a day. Figure that one out. I feel like with Movember with Movember coming to a close, I see a lot of let's raise money for self-awareness. Let's raise money for awareness on this issue. Let's do these things, but we never really talk about what those things are. We're allowing other companies to be like, okay, we're going to show you what we do with the money. And what happens to it? It's gone. There are absolutely organizations out there that are doing great work. But, I feel like after the month of November, I can't talk today. I apologize. But I think that I just see half of the month. It goes right back to, be a man. It's like everybody drops the act for a month and then they're like, okay, we're back. Let's ruin this. So take time out for yourself. I will be here making videos for you, obviously, to try to help. But I suggest taking time, especially with the holiday. And if you've got rough holidays, maybe friends that are no longer with us, family that's no longer with us, just family struggles. Maybe your family fights a lot. Maybe it's just a stressful thing. Maybe Aunt Gertrude really makes terrible food and you have to eat it and then, suffer. Whatever the case may be, you have to take time for yourself. You have to. And good things will come from doing that. And I feel like you'll be clear-headed and you'll be able to kind of work through a little bit more of the information that you're being sent all the time, or the problems that you have to experience, or things like that. It helps. So take your time. It's your time. It's your life. It's your time. It's a way to take back the emotion and take back yourself and being able to be you when things get going and things turn up to 11. With that said, this is a shorter video. It's the holidays. I got some friends in town. And generally speaking, I just, have some stuff to do. So I hope that everybody's holiday is going to be great. If you like Thanksgiving. Sorry, I had to remember what the holiday was. If you like Thanksgiving, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. If you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope whatever you're doing this week is great. I just hope everybody has a great fucking week. And I know that I'm going to try very hard to have a great week. And yeah, let's kick this shit's ass. Okay, probably not going to word it that way, but look, I suffer. If you're suffering, together we can suffer and hopefully find a way out of this. I get it. It's painful. It's hard to talk about. There's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of bad shit about it. Just, that's what it is. But good times are around the corner. We just got to get through this hard part, right? And we're going to do it together, and we'll work our way out of this hole. So for now, I appreciate everybody who checks in on this. If you're into gaming, still got that Twitch channel, still stream Tuesday through Friday, usually 11 to about 2:30. And I'd love to have you there. And for everybody else that's watching on YouTube, I appreciate everybody that views this, and I love you all. And I hope you all have a great week. For now, this has been Living with This Monster. I'm your host, Lemon Scented. And you guys have a good week.